Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking at something a little different.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about interview prep,
Mm-hmm.
but specifically for aerospace engineers.
Right?
Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, I'm not an engineer. Like, why should I care about this?
Right.
But trust me, there's some really valuable insights here, even if you're not, building rockets or anything.
Exactly. This is about more than just aerospace. It's about really nailing any interview.
Yeah. So where are we getting all this information from today?
So we're diving into an article from Indeed.com.
Oh, okay.
And they break down common interview questions for, aspiring aerospace engineer.
Okay, so like what kind of questions are we talking about here?
Well, they start with the usual suspects, the ones you get in pretty much every interview.
Right. Like, tell me about yourself.
Exactly. And what are your goals? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, those can be tough sometimes.
Oh, they can be real stumpers if you're not prepared.
So what's the secret to answering those well?
Well, you got to remember, these aren't just throwaway questions. They're trying to get a sense of who you are.
Beyond just your resume.
Exactly. Like, can they picture you working on a team? Maybe even building a rocket with you?
Okay, so personality matters just as much as skills.
Oh, absolutely. Passion, energy, communication, all that comes into play.
Interesting. Okay, so let's get into a more specific question here.
Sure.
The article asks, how do you stay aware of developments in the aerospace industry?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You could just say, I read industry journals, I go to conferences.
Right. You could, but that's not going to make you stand out.
So how do you take it to the next level?
You got to show them you're a lifelong learner. You're genuinely curious about the field.
Yeah.
Think about it. What are some recent developments that have really caught your eye?
Okay, so instead of just listing sources, you'd want to talk about, a specific example.
Yeah, and maybe even tie it back to your own work or your aspirations, show how you're constantly trying to learn and grow.
I like that. So it's not just about keeping up. It's about pushing the boundaries.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've tackled a general question now. Let's move on to something a bit more technical.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the article asks, describe your experience with the design and development of imaging systems for aircraft.
Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, this is where you get to show off your technical chops.
Right. But remember, it's not about just throwing around jargon.
It's got to be clear and concise.
Yeah, you want to tell a story, illustrate your skills with concrete examples.
So instead of saying, I'm proficient in MATLAB, you would talk about a specific project where you used it.
Precisely, walk them through your process, the challenges you faced, the solutions you came up with.
Okay, that makes sense. Show them you can solve problems, think creatively.
And speaking of MATLAB, just to clarify for anyone who's not familiar.
Yeah, good point.
It's a powerful software that engineers use for complex calculations and simulations.
Okay, so we've covered general questions, technical experience, and even touched on continuous learning.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. We've got a whole universe of insightful questions to explore.
Can't wait. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're still cruising through these aerospace engineer interview questions.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface, really.
But even if you're not, aiming for a career at NASA,
Right.
there's still a ton we can learn here about acing any interview.
It's like we're cracking the code of what makes a candidate stand out.
I like that. Okay, so let's jump into another question from this Indeed article.
Okay. Shoot.
All right, this one asks, if you noticed a colleague made an error in a critical component design, how would you handle it?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Right, like I'm already getting nervous just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a real high-stakes situation.
So what are they really looking for with a question like this?
They want to see how you handle pressure, your judgment, your leadership skills.
Makes sense, because in aerospace engineering, even a small mistake could have huge consequences.
Exactly. They need to know you can be trusted to do the right thing.
Okay, so let's break down the sample answer that the article gives.
Okay.
It starts with observing the situation, seeing if the colleague catches their own mistake.
Right, which shows you're respectful, you're not jumping to conclusions, you're giving them a chance to self-correct.
That's important in any team environment.
Oh, absolutely. Trust is everything.
But it's not just about being passive.
Yeah.
Right? The answer also talks about taking action if safety is at risk.
Yeah, you can't just sit back and hope for the best if there's a potential problem.
So it's about finding that balance, giving your colleagues space to learn, but also stepping in when necessary.
And the way you communicate in that situation is crucial.
Right. You don't want to come across as aggressive or accusatory.
Exactly. It's got to be assertive, but also respectful and clear.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a tricky skill to master.
It is, but it's something you can practice. Think about how you'd approach different scenarios.
Okay, so we've talked about handling errors, but what about preventing them in the first place?
Right, quality control. That's a huge part of aerospace engineering.
And probably a lot of other industries too.
Oh, absolutely. Think about healthcare manufacturing anywhere where precision is key.
So there's a question in the article about ensuring mechanical maintenance meets industry standards,
Yeah, and the example answer they give really emphasizes being proactive.
not just waiting for something to go wrong.
Right. It's about having systems in place to catch potential problems before they become big issues.
So like regular checks and balances.
Exactly. And keeping meticulous records
Yeah.
and making sure everything is documented.
And I'm guessing communication plays a role here too.
Oh, for sure. Everyone on the team needs to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Understand the standards and their role in maintaining them.
So it's about creating a culture of responsibility and striving for excellence.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about handling errors, preventing errors.
And we're starting to see a pattern here.
When you
These aerospace engineering questions are really just a way to explore those universal skills that make any professional stand out.
like communication, problem solving, critical thinking.
Exactly. It's not just about rockets and spaceships, it's about the fundamentals of success.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So even if our listeners aren't building satellites,
Right.
they can still learn a lot from these questions.
Absolutely. It's all about showcasing your passion, your skills, and your drive to learn.
Okay, let's see what other gems we can unearth from this article.
All right, let's dive back in.
And we're back for the final descent of our deep dive into these aerospace engineer interview questions.
Yeah, we're in the home stretch now.
But I feel like we've already learned so much,
Yeah.
even if we're not all planning to build rockets.
Right. These questions really get you thinking about the skills that matter in any field.
So, what do we have left on the agenda for today?
Well, let's tackle this question about aerodynamic feasibility.
Okay, aerodynamic.
Yeah, the article asks, how do you calculate the aerodynamic feasibility of aircraft and spacecraft designs?
Wow, that sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's getting into the real nitty-gritty of aerospace engineering.
So are they expecting you to like whip out a bunch of equations and formulas?
Not necessarily. It's more about how you approach the problem, your thought process.
Okay, so like breaking it down into manageable steps.
Exactly, and showing that you understand the fundamental principles of aerodynamics.
So how does the example answer in the article tackle this?
It does touch on some key concepts like stress and pressure distribution.
Right, because you need to make sure the design can actually withstand the forces of flight.
Exactly, but it explains those concepts in a way that even someone who's not an engineer can understand.
So it's like they're teaching the interviewer something new while also showing off their expertise.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, but it's a really impressive skill to have.
It reminds me of those science communicators who can explain complex ideas in a way that's really engaging.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that ability to translate technical knowledge into clear language is so valuable in any profession.
It's funny how communication keeps coming up as a theme in these interview questions.
Well, it makes sense. Communication is crucial in any field, but especially in aerospace engineering.
Right, where you're constantly collaborating with others.
Exactly. You need to be able to articulate your ideas, listen to feedback, and work together effectively as a team.
I'm really starting to see the bigger picture here. These aerospace engineer interview questions are about so much more than just technical knowledge,
They're really about those core skills that make any professional successful.
like communication, problem solving, critical thinking.
Exactly. Those are the foundations of a strong career, no matter what path you choose.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into aerospace engineer interview questions.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, but the insights we've gained are applicable to anyone who's looking to ace an interview.
So to all our listeners out there, remember these key takeaways.
Be prepared to talk about your skills and experience, but also your passion and your drive to learn.
Don't be afraid to showcase your personality and let your enthusiasm shine through.
And practice communicating complex ideas in a clear and concise way.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about having the right answers.
It's about connecting with the interviewer and showing them that you're the right fit for the team.
So go out there and rock those interviews.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for the stars.